I love the sound of wind chimes. So I sampled my wind chimes and made the Wind Chimes Ableton Live Pack. It's a collection of instruments that you can use to have wind chime sounds in your own music, and you can play them like playable instruments. Every sound you hear in this music was made with those samples, including the white noise, the bass, some of those strange pads and angelic sounds in the distance. You can get the Wind Chimes pack and use it in your own music at brianfunk.com. And if you're a member of the Music Production Club, the Wind Chimes pack comes with your membership, along with a lot of other great things to help you in your music-making adventures. Check out the Music Production Club at brianfunk.com/MPC. Welcome to the Music Production Podcast. My name is Brian Funk. I'm your host. And on today's show, I have Sterling Stiles. Sterling has produced a new album. It came out in January. And it was done all mobile, which is really kind of fun and exciting. I think we're going to have a great time talking about how you did that, some of the adventures you've been on. So Sterling, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me so much.
Yeah, it's good to have you. I was listening to the album, definitely enjoyed it. A lot of different styles, a lot of different types of songs, lots of different feels. But there's definitely like a connecting sound. So it doesn't, and now I'm going to let you get into this, but I know you recorded this in many different locations. It doesn't sound like this song was this and this is, there is some cohesiveness to it, which I think is pretty cool.
Well, that was something that I kind of had worked hard to do, and so thank you. It was a big project, and at the time I was doing a lot of traveling, and I was working on cruise ships on and off during that time. So a lot of it was recorded at sea, actually on the ships, and I even had members of the show band that were, these guys were bored sometimes, and they'd say, "Hey, if you're making songs, I'll help out. I'll do." So I was like, great, session musicians. So I had a lot of these guys recording on there, and that was a ton of fun. But I did do some things in a studio. Piano was done at a studio, and some of the drums were done at a studio. But yeah, the whole thing was it was really an adventure.
What were you doing on a cruise ship?
I was doing some stagehand work. So you can be one of the guys that's like backstage moving scenery props. And you also have to have a working knowledge of audio and some video and lighting and stuff. And you kind of do like a mix of all things on board. But that was a fun gig, man. I saw the whole world and met a lot of cool people. And that was when I started writing songs.
Nice. And I imagine you're kind of like on for an extended period of time, right?
It's about like 6 months for the longer ones. And then towards the end, I was doing shorter ones, 4 months.
Wow.
So, but yeah, you live on the ship and that's your home, and you got your neighbors and your friends all right there with you, just traveling around. So it's kind of cool.
Was that experience inspiration for the songwriting? Is that what made you do it?
Absolutely.
Or will you just have the time on your hands?
Well, they had... on the ship where I first started writing songs, they had this really great Yamaha grand piano. And it was back in this storage room with all this fireproof padding around it. And I was like, man, this would actually be a great recording, because when they don't use it, they store it in this room. And the padding made for great acoustics. I mean, it was just super dead in there. So I thought, I kind of want to record this piano. And so... one of the times I had convinced the piano player from the band to come down, and I was like, just play anything and I'll put mics on it and record it. So I had my trusty interface with me, and I stole some of the overhead mics from the drum kit. This was all at night, so there was no shows going on. And just kind of started playing around with it. But then the piano player started losing interest pretty fast. So I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to have to play this thing myself. And I didn't have anything interesting to play, so I started coming up with stuff, just playing around. And I was like, wait, these are kind of some songs. I think I'll write them down or, remember them. And in the meantime, recorded a bunch of piano.
Wow, that's got to be a unique story, I don't think I'm going to hear that too many
You
times.
can't make that one up.
Yeah. In the fireproof enclosure of the grand piano on the cruise ship.
Pretty weird stuff, right?
Yeah. Nice. So what were you recording onto? You said you had an interface.
Yeah. So at that time, I was using a Sound Devices USB Pre 2. And for anybody that's not familiar, that is a good little unit. Really strong preamps. Sound Devices is known for their location recording stuff. And they put out this interface that kind of crosses the bridge a little bit into like you could use it for music production. So I decided to get that because it was just tough as nails, wouldn't fail. That was my whole thing. I want something that would not fail.
Right.
It needs to take a beating, kicking around in a backpack, and then when I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go. And excuse me, it can really take the transients well. The preamps were so awesome. It was absolutely outstanding. And I promise they're not paying me to say this, but I just said I had such a good experience with that unit. I mean, I could go on and on about this thing from the metering to the I/O options, and it was just super solid.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It looks like it has like a nice like kind of LED meter UV kind of thing going on, or VU. And I imagine that's pretty helpful, especially like on like location recording where you can really see it probably across the room.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I mean, you can see it across the room, and you can really dial in where your gain is. And even if it goes into the red, it kind of still doesn't even distort. Like those pre's had so much headroom. It was like, this thing's awesome. And I was recording horns with it and everything, and it sang. It was really cool.
I'm looking at mine right now, and I have a Focusrite Claret 8 Pre-X, and I think it has 8 lights for my entire meter. So there's like 3 or 4 green, and then a couple yellow, and then a red or 2. I don't even know if it is 8. It might be like 6 or 7, but it's not a lot. And this looks like it has probably like 30.
Well, I think if you're using software, I mean, you usually start metering mostly in software. You kind of check your preamp to make sure it's not a red light situation. And other than that, you don't need it. But it was just one of those things that was cool.
Yeah.
If you're a nerd, you're like, oh, that's cool. That meter looks awesome.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, because especially where I have it, I can't see that across the room. I can't get an idea of what my levels are unless I really go and look at the computer and get a sense of what's coming in. So I can imagine that's something that comes in handy for sure. So that's cool. So is this where the recording process began on the ship?
That was where it all began. And so
how far back are we talking now?
This is going to be 2017 when I started kind of laying some of this stuff down. So I started messing around with the piano, and then I thought, well, I need to get this thing, down in MIDI so I can really, get it and mess with it and get it perfect and arrange the parts and trying to have a more complete product. So in addition to that grand piano, there was also a keyboard for the band. So there was a USB cable floating around in the back, and I was able to hook it up to my laptop and use it as a MIDI controller, like a big full-size keyboard, which was also great. And it turned out there were a few guys in the band that had also discovered this. So I would go backstage at night to use the piano, and there was somebody sitting there with their laptop, but writing down parts. I was like, and they would wave, oh, sorry. So we were all just like taking turns on this thing.
That's funny.
And it was really kind of funny. But where were we going with that?
I was just asking if that's where you started, or and just how long back we're going. How. I guess I'm trying to get a sense of like how long this project was for you, what the duration was.
Yeah, it was from 2017 up until probably 2019 for recording, and then there was a lot of editing. And the final mix was done by my mentor, and he's a guy called Seva, and he works at Sequoia Studios. Well, he owns Sequoia Studios in Tennessee, where I'm from. So, and he's the guy that taught me so much and taught me how to keep an open mind about audio, and the list goes on. But he's the guy that did the final mix, and he has an API. So I thought that would be that would be the way to go.
Let it run through there.
Yeah, get some transformers on it.
Very cool. What were you recording onto? What you said you had your laptop? What DAW?
At the time, I was using Logic, and it was like the 2012 version. And I've since moved to just Pro Tools. Even for MIDI editing and everything, I'm all in Pro Tools.
Yeah.
Logic was great, and it served me well. But I started running into weird little things where I'm like, man, you can't do that one little thing that I like Pro Tools for. So I just figured I'll start learning MIDI on Pro Tools, and now I've just, I still think Logic's great. A lot of people get good results with it. I would still use it.
Yeah.
But that at the time was good. It had all the software instruments. Some of on the album, some of those are the software instruments.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, sound good. Are you working at the studio, Seva? The Sequoia Studios?
I was for a while. So that's up in Tennessee. I've since moved.
Yeah. Right.
It's
you're in Miami. Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things that will never go away. It'd be like if I'm in town, it'd be like, hey, there's a session, come in, and I'd work the session, and man, they're always fun. They're great group of guys, always doing cool stuff, interesting people passing through. A lot of times there's a dog hanging out. It's just like one of those cool studios with a great vibe.
Right. Yeah, I like that. My dog's sleeping right now next to me. I often send them away while we record these, but it's been a quiet, rainy day, and I think she's just gonna chill.
There was one session where the dog that was in the studio was snoring in the control room, and not a lot of dogs snore, but this one was, it was getting up there in age, and it just sawing logs, and we were doing like a rock session. Wow. It was like really extreme. We had it cranked up in the control room. And between takes, you'd hear this like, is that? And we were all looking around, looking in the session, like, what is that coming from?
What's
buzzing?
And
it was the dog.
Yeah, that's funny. What, we got like a bad wire?
Yeah, or we just thought it was some kind of crazy, buzzing interference or something weird, low frequency. I don't know what, but
yeah,
it was snoring.
Oh, that's
dog.
Cool. So I love that you were able to tap into some of the players in the cruise ship band. That must have been a lot of fun to work with them.
Cruise ships have some of the best musicians I've ever worked with, and these are people from all over the world that take music really seriously, and they're always fun to work with and everything. So it really was an excuse just to hang out. We would always hang out and do these little sessions. And got all the stuff down. It was a ton of fun. So Ukraine, and then the guy playing saxophone, he was from Brazil. He also did the piccolo work on a couple of the songs. Let's see, who else? And I did do a remote session, a remote meaning not like we recorded out in the yard like I did with the tambourine, but recording with like using a session musician that just records from their home remotely. Yeah. Have you ever messed around with any of that?
Very little, but sometimes you get like the tracks and you can, I guess that's how you're doing it, right? You kind of just playing along and sending your part back.
Like I'll send, like if you were going to play keyboards on my track, I would send the song without the keyboards and then another bounce that is just my version of the keyboards, like, hey, here's kind of a guide what to do. And you would record your part and send it back to me, and it all lines up in Pro Tools. And I've actually been getting into a lot of this lately, and my next album is going to feature a ton of great musicians that I've met through this whole process. And COVID really kind of forced me to get into this because it was like no one would go to the studio and projects were all paused. You had no access to anything. But suddenly this online community of all these musicians opens up, and really talented people with great setups, high quality instruments in a good room, nice mics on it. They got everything dialed in. It's like, man, this is great. So I'm a huge fan of that now.
Yeah.
And again, it's people from, Argentina and Italy and somebody in California, another guy in New York.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing time that we have that now, that we can really tap into like talents all over the place without all the travel, and which would mean like extra cost and more time.
Yeah. And booking studio time.
Yeah.
Like I could never record drums in here, so I'd have to go to a recording studio and book the time and do the thing and get the guy and make sure everybody's schedules are good. And this way, it's like you just send it out, and the downside is it takes a lot of time because they'll send you a take. So a lot of this is done over email, and it just takes time to listen to the take and go through and go, oh no, on this one part, switch to the ride cymbal actually, and then gradually go towards the bell and then come back. It's as tweaky as you can get, so they might re-record it and send it back to you. And you usually get like 3 before they start being like, okay, man, this has gone long enough and there's only a certain amount of money on the table. So, which I totally understand, that's fine. But you end up finding your people that get what you're doing, and the more you use them, the more they understand what you like, and it just becomes this whole new network of guys. And so it's just like, it's cool.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot of fun, just to I'm just all different styles. I'm sure it's inspiring and affects the way the music comes out, gives you new ideas.
Yeah, and even it helps you think in a different way. Like if you see somebody on like Instagram or something, like some percussionist popped up, and I was like, man, this guy is cool. And usually I would just think it was cool, but now I'm thinking like, I wonder if I can get this guy involved. So I'll go and find his website and stuff, and he's like, hey, I accept PayPal. So like, okay, this is gonna work. And he has top-notch setup and stuff. I haven't even contacted this guy yet, but I'm going to.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's actually something I haven't thought of doing too much with, like on Instagram, just finding these people that are, showing their chops and rocking out.
And the ones that are good, I mean, they'll have good, and you can see their setup. And you're like, okay, he's using a 414 on that cajon. It's probably going to sound nice. And then it does.
Right. Oh, that's cool.
So, but it's a bit of a departure from the album I just released, which I did not do, or I did just the one bass player on the one song because I wanted fretless bass.
Yeah.
But anyways, it was all in person.
Nice. Yeah. So you went to many places, and now I understand some of this. I'm reading the sheet you gave me telling where the album was recorded, and it says Oceana Marina, somewhere in the Caribbean. I was like,
yeah, that's
okay. And then Oceana Riviera, somewhere off the coast of Spain. I'm like,
some of that's a little tongue in cheek, but just for fun. But we really were in a ship off the coast of Spain, in like the backstage area with the little setup and just blasting out trumpet and trombone parts or whatever. So that was why I had put those there, because I mean that was where it was recorded. And at the end of the day, I thought, I don't even know what else to write for this.
Yeah, right. What latitude, longitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's fun. You mentioned recording the tambourine outside, and I know you got that image on your Instagram. Where are you in that case?
So a buddy of mine had this lake house. He got this sweet deal on cheap rent. He was living in the guest house of this big lake estate. And so the living room of this guest house had these giant vaulted ceilings. I think he was paying like $500 a month to live in this. Like, it was epic. So, and it was way out It was quiet out there. There's no traffic noise or anything like that. So in his house with these big vaulted ceilings, I actually did a lot of the drums because it sounded amazing. And I thought, okay, I've got at that time I had the Zoom F8, which we can talk about. But then I needed to record tambourine, but I didn't want the sound of the room in the tambourine tracks because that would just be too much. And I thought, I want this to be really dry. So I tried it in the closet and it sounded weird. And then I was like, you know what? It's kind of nice out today. I'm going to go try this outside, and everything runs on batteries anyways. Why not? So I just had my laptop on the ground and went out there and just did the tambourine track, kind of like vibing. And my buddy came out filming me. He goes, you don't know how funny you look, so I'm going to film this.
No, you look like you're having a good time. You're in your flip-flops with the shades on and somewhere scenic and nice. Did you pick up...
That's just Sterling Styles, man.
Yeah, there you go. Did you pick up ambient noise on that track? Like birds or any kind of insects?
It wasn't too bad. It was... there was, I think, like a boat had gone by or something, but a tambourine... Like if you were to play a tambourine next to your ear, it would be loud.
Oh, yeah.
So, I didn't have to like crank the gain and get a ton of ambient noise. Mm-hmm. And I was doing it right in front of the mics. I had both of the mics on a stereo bar, and these were AKG C451Bs. And I loved those mics. So I used those, and when you're recording a tambourine, it's like, if you're doing it to the side, it's like a weird thing. And then if you record it too closely, if you hit it on your hand, you get too much of a low end bump. And it's like, well, that's not good. It's going to kind of come through. I'll have to do a roll off. And no, so I'll just back up a little. And so a lot of them, I ended up just like shaking it back and forth just to try to get an even sound on it. But that's the kind of stuff you don't think about, because you're like, oh, tambourine, it'll be easy. Throw a mic up and I'll just rock out. And it's like, no, you got to kind of sit in the right spot if you want good results at the end of your project.
I find tambourine actually fairly challenging. Like you said, when you hit it on your hand, it's a real huge transient, and it's so high pitched. It's so high, frequency content. It's just like it gets out of control, and it can really come across like painful to the ear. So your like relationship to the microphone is really important. It's very easy to clip and cause all kinds of distortion issues if you're too close.
So you could see on the Instagram, it's like I had to kind of back up a little bit. And hey, here's where those meters came in handy on the USB Pre 2. Mm-hmm. I could see them like really clearly, and I was kind of backed off from the source there.
Yeah.
So but it was awesome. Had a ton of fun doing that, and recorded all my tambourine outside right there at that session. I think it's like 2 or 3 songs that's on. So, but that was a ton of fun. And now the real interesting one was bass. We recorded the bass in a barbershop.
Yes, I see that too.
There was a barbershop in Nashville. I don't know if they're still open.
This is on Instagram too, for anyone listening, if they want to check it out. Sterling Styles Music. A place called Blues Barbershop. And this was an interesting place in Nashville. And when I contacted my friend Henry to play bass, he said, hey, we really ought to go record here. Not only do they have good gear, but like we could just record at night, because they do shows and stuff in there. Like it's a barbershop by day, and then they just cram people at night and do shows, because that's awesome. Nashville. They just do weird stuff like that. And so sure enough, there we were, like tracking bass. And at that time I was using the Zoom F8, just going into my laptop, and I had a DI signal and an RE27 and then an Austin ribbon mic. You can do these DIY ribbon mics made by a company called Austin. They sound really good, and they sound really good on bass cabinets. I mean, You got that big, fat, awesome tone, like that effortless low end that you're always kind of trying to dial in. But that was like a fun session, and we knocked that thing out, I think, in like 3 nights. We did all the songs. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But
I'm
it was
look
just wacky to be there.
I'm looking at the picture trying to see where that ribbon mic is.
It is
So
phase aligned with the RE27. So it's
okay.
purple, so it's kind of dark.
Yeah, it's a little tough to see, but it's pretty close. It looks like.
I had them close. You know, that's another area to debate for bass amps is how far away do you put the mic? And it was one of those situations where it's like, you know, everything about this is different. So I'm just going to let my ear decide. I played with a few different things and I landed on where that was.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you how close it was anymore, but it got a great tone. And Henry did a great job laying down the parts.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's
right there in the barbershop.
That's fun. Yeah, it sounds like they have a lot of fun in Nashville. I definitely have to make my way down at some point.
It's a fun place. I've spent quite a bit of time there, and there's always some new crazy thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the locals, you know, I got a lot of friends that are locals there. It's like, oh, we're gonna go down to the, you know, fill in the blank. Like, oh my gosh. So one time it was this barbershop, and I had actually been to a show there before I recorded there. I don't know if it's still open. I don't know if the pandemic got them. But anyways, Blues Barbershop, cool place, run by cool people, and just one of the quirkier things. Like, man, can we record in the weirdest joint possible? It's like, yeah, let's go to the Blues Barbershop. They've got good gear, and they had the Aguilar bass head and Fender P bass, like all the stuff that you want.
Awesome, and the gear. How cool is that?
And the gear. Yeah, but I had to record with my trusty, just the Zoom F8, which honestly, I had to sell a lot of my gear during the pandemic, as a lot of people probably did. But, you know, it wasn't my favorite thing. After using the sound devices and going to the Zoom, I really just wanted more input so I could do drums. But it was not quite as good. I missed it.
Now, I'm guessing you can record directly onto the Zoom, right?
You can record straight to an SD card, which I've actually done with great results. And it was cool. I recorded a jazz group at this little bistro, and I used a Zoom F8 and mic'd up all the instruments. And you can use a Bluetooth with your phone and control the preamps. So I was sitting at the bar watching the preamps while the band was going, just on my phone.
Oh, cool.
And the results were really good. And I had actually borrowed that unit, and it led me to buy my own because I thought, man, this jazz record's sounding good. I'm going to get one of these.
Yeah, nice. Oh, it's great. You can do it from the phone. You can have them play. You can stay out of the way. You can do what you
Yeah,
need
you
to
just
do.
watch your levels from the bar, and, you know, people start talking to you and stuff because you're just sitting there staring at your phone. Hey, what's all that? What are you doing? It's like, hey, yeah, I got to, you know, make sure we're not clipping here. But it does reach a point where you set the pre, and it's like, okay, this is good.
Right.
We can leave this.
Yeah. Yeah, you can kind of get your levels, I'm sure. Yeah, it looks cool. Looks like a fun unit.
Yeah, you can record just like to the SD card. But every time you used it as an audio interface, because you can just plug a USB cable in, you have to go in the menu and say, okay, we're going to use this as a multi-track audio interface on a Mac. And, you know, it's all these little scrolly menus and stuff. So it's like slightly cumbersome. And it just ate batteries like crazy if you weren't using the power supply. And there were some times where it's like, I don't want to bring the power supply. I want to be, you know, off the grid and recording. So.
Yeah. I guess that's understandable. It seems like a pretty powerful piece of equipment, so I'm sure the batteries get consumed quickly too.
Yeah. Well, it was the screen that did so much. So now they're coming out with stuff that either has like a minimal screen or there's no screen. So there's another company called Centrance, and they're making some really interesting stuff now. That you can take anywhere, and a lot of their units are the same profile as like a Passport. I mean, you could literally put these interfaces in your pocket.
Wow.
And they've got a lot of celebrity endorsements, and I was looking really closely at one of those. And but that's just another, like if you're into mobile recording, I mean, I would highly suggest that unit. It had an internal battery, and because it doesn't have a screen, it just goes forever. Even if you're using phantom power on 2 mics, it just stay on. I mean, it was like 8 hours. It was some crazy.
Really?
I forget what it was, but it was way more than you would ever need on one session. So that was the unit I almost got.
Amazing. It just blows my mind sometimes when I think of how far the technology has come, what we can do now, what we used to have to go through
Yeah.
just to record anything. And even phone, iPad, like are still powerful devices now. Do you use any kind of iPad, iPhone, anything like that for the mobile stuff?
Not like in conjunction. I always stick to the laptop because, like, at the end of the day, I do want to DAW, and it's kind of cumbersome.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I got into it, I could. I've been seeing some DAWs for iOS that look cool, and that was another draw with the Centrance unit is that you can use it with an iPhone.
Right. Wow.
So I thought, okay, I can just have my iPhone and this little interface, and then basically all I would have is like, a mic stand to carry. And but then I started getting into the DAWs and stuff, and I'm just a huge fan of hotkeys. So there's no hotkeys on a phone. There's just one. That's it. So I thought this is going to just frustrate me. I'll bring my laptop and do it that way.
Yeah, I haven't gone too far with any of that myself either. Just, I don't know what it is. I'm comfortable with what I got, I guess, with the laptop, but I kind of understand what you're saying. That one touch thing.
Yeah, like imagine how many menus you'd have to go through just to be like certain things that, I don't know, there's a myriad of examples.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's also just, I think we haven't found like a good touch, like analogy for like a knob,
Right.
Like I always just find they always react kind of differently. Where like maybe I have to turn the knob, or maybe I have to just go up and down, and there's always that kind of like weird feeling. I think and people are doing this. I mean, companies are doing this for sure, but I think we need like a different like approach, to instead of a screen with like knobs and faders and things like that are physical, something that's a little more like built for touch. I always felt like there's an app called Sampler with no E. And I think that's a great example of an app that does a nice job with the touch interface. You're not really doing knobs and faders and physical things on a screen.
I haven't seen that. Sampler?
Yeah, it's been around a while too. No E in it, but very cool. It's easy to record. You get a few different like samples in there, and then
Sampler for iPad.
the way you play them back is very interesting with like how you touch and how you can like just move like loop points, and you can cross your fingers over and it goes in reverse.
Oh, cool.
All real time too. So it's
I'm watching the little oh yeah, this is awesome.
That's a good one. It's
I could get into that. But that's also the kind of thing, it's like one more reason to stare at your phone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
I've been trying to get away from my phone as much as I can, but it's like all this cool stuff keeps coming out. It's like, what's that?
I know. I guess, the laptop too. Been like thinking about that a lot lately, actually. With my high school students, we did a whole unit this year on like whole research paper on like phone use and screen time and the addictivity. Is that a word? Addictiveness.
It's a real thing.
But yeah, like at the same time, like I might not log as many hours on my phone as they do, but I'm on my laptop a lot. So, I mean, I'm racking up screen time right now, I guess, on the laptop, but yeah, it feels a little different because I'm having a conversation with you, but it's a lot of in front of screens. Any way you cut it, I guess, these days. It's just how we live.
I mean, there's just too many benefits to using all this stuff. So it's like, well, what are you going to do,
Yeah.
I think when it was just TV, before it was like an interactive thing, like, hey, this is a tool I'm using. Back when it was just like, hey, you're watching TV, that was too much screen time. You could actually justify like, hey, you really need to get up and go do something.
8
But
hours.
now we're actually getting things done in such an efficient way with these tools. It's like, we're looking at screens. So
Yeah.
moderation
Yeah.
is the key to everything.
The key to everything. That's right. So you must have had moderation in your gear. That's always like a trap we fall in as musicians, producers, whatever we are. And there's always a new thing to get, a new piece to have.
Yeah. Drooling over like sweetwater.com and comparing like, well, this other product is kind of the same thing and it's $200 cheaper. And they call it GAS, gear acquisition syndrome.
Yeah.
Where you just like kind of can't stop. And then, I've gone through so many pieces of gear. I try to keep a really minimal rig. I don't want to have like a huge amount of stuff floating around that I kind of never use, like things in my rack that it's like I bought mostly because it looked cool. And I've been there. I had all that stuff. I had a massive setup. And now I'm just down to my laptop and my interface because I do a lot in studios. I do a lot of remote recording. Like, I don't feel like I need to own all the gear. That being said, I've been through tons of mics. I had a U87 for a while because I was like, to me, that was just the pinnacle. I was like, I got to have a U87. And I had saved up the money and I finally pulled the trigger and I bought it. And I remember the day it showed up and I opened that little wooden box and I was like, oh man, there it is. I think I used it on 2 sessions and I had to sell it.
Right.
But sounded great, but it didn't make me a better audio engineer.
Yeah.
So, and now I'm a huge fan of the SM57 for, kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, but the 57 is not to be underestimated. I'm talking into one right now, and in my opinion, it's just like the best dynamic mic, better than a 58. So this 57 has the windscreen. This is the presidential windscreen. Every time you see the president talking, they have 2 57s next to each other in case one fails, which they never do, and they have these windscreens on it. And this is the what's the model?
That's funny. I didn't know that.
The A2WS windscreen. A2WS. You can buy it right from Shure. It's like $17 or something, and it works.
Sounds great.
It's and you can throw that around.
Yeah.
So, but it stops plosives really well, and it doesn't have, because when you use a mesh windscreen, from what I found, this is just my opinion, it really, like on a 58. Has the classic, ball mesh windscreen, and you can hear air rushing past it. Now, it's not hitting the capsule for a low frequency, rattle the subwoofers kind of plosive, but you can still hear it. But with this, it's like, it's great. And you can get right up on the mic, so much so that it starts to sound a whole lot like an SM7B. So some people say the SM7B and the SM57 are extremely similar, and I agree with that. This mic sounds really good, especially now that I have this windscreen on it, and you can get right up close, and you get more of that bottom end from the proximity effect. It sounds like a broadcast mic, and it's good. And not only that, it can take high SPLs. I mean, it's a good mic. If you get it going through a clean preamp, it's gonna sound great. Yeah, it's just like it's a legend for a reason. I mean, they're using it with the president, so that should tell you that this is it. It's the presidential microphone.
Yeah.
So I'm going through oh, sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, no. The presidential, there was I just remember a plug-in a while back, the King's microphone. I think maybe Waves made it. We got the presidential one now. But I agree with you. Like, I love the 57, the 58, for just live stuff. But I have the 57 on the snare drum, on the guitar amp. Just does the job.
It's awesome. I had to sell a lot of my gear during the pandemic to like pay rent and stuff. But I could not let go of them. I have 2 57s and I kept them. A, because they don't really have a lot of return. But B, I was like, how could you sell your 57? That's the one mic you can count on.
Yeah, you drop it out of the second story of the building and probably still good to go.
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan. And I use these this cable. This have you ever heard of this company called Asterope?
Nope.
It's Asterope, and super almost boutique level, but just like good cables.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of there's when you go shopping online, you discover that there are more brands of things than you ever realized possible. And so it's you kind of just find something you like and you stick to that because like anymore, nothing's the best. It's just like there are a lot of things that are amazing. So, but that was one of those things, and it's cool. It's like purple. So I was like, that's kind of cool.
Nice. Hey, the look helps, right?
The look helps, and when clients see it, they're like, man, that is one heck of a cable there. And you're like, yeah, it's for the presidential microphone.
Ooh.
Do you get into cable culture at all, or
No.
is that
No, not at all.
Go with
actually.
a classic and call it a day?
Yeah. I've never really, I'll get the cables that have like the lifetime warranty, and
Smart.
cables. I used to feel like this about monitors before I got monitors. When I used to just use probably like an old stereo or something to record out of back in the day.
Yeah.
Because like getting the monitors, it's a pretty big, financial burden, to get some even cheap monitors. You're talking like $300-400 for the pair, and it's not like a new instrument, it's not like a new sound or a new thing.
Yeah,
But
it's just
until
like
you hear
to
it,
buy
once
it.
I got them, I was like, all right, okay, I see what's happening here. But cables are maybe I'm mistaking myself, but right now that's how I feel about cables. Like, it's not.
I'm back and forth.
Yeah.
It's like some days I wake up and I'm like, all cables sound the same. This is ridiculous. And other days I'm like, no, this is really good. And so, but what kind of monitors were you using, or are you using?
The first ones I got were KRKs, Rocket 6. They were Ferrari
I think the
red.
KRK Rockets are the rite of passage for getting into music production.
Yeah.
It's like everybody seems to have had a pair of those.
Oh yeah, I love them still. I mean, I know them now, and they're when I first got those compared to whatever old stereo I was mixing through, I was like, oh.
Whoa.
That's what's going on, Right. I just got new monitors not too long ago by a company called HED, HEDD.
Ooh, the Klaus Heinz company.
Yes, from
dude.
Audio, yeah.
Hey, that's exciting because I've really been liking that.
I'm trying to remember what they're called right now.
Those are the ones, if I'm not mistaken, the way the tweeter works, it literally like compresses metal together on two sides into a ribbon.
Oh, yeah?
There was something weird about the patent for that tweeter. He was unable to like release this product for so many years, and now it's finally out. You know about Klaus Heinz. He's famous for doing mic mods. Like if you had a Klaus Heinz Neumann, it was like a way bigger deal than just the Neumann,
Right. Oh, cool.
standard. Actually, I recorded at Sequoia Studios for piano. There's two Klaus Heinz KM84s on that piano.
Okay, nice.
So that's a cool thing. Anyway, so now Klaus Heinz is doing these speakers, these heads, and I've been dying to hear a pair because they just look awesome, and everything I see is like, yep, that all checks out. How do you like them?
These are the Type 07 MK2s.
Let me see this.
I love them. Again, this was another instance when I heard these, I was like, oh, like, wow. And I haven't done much with them besides turn them on, really. They do have these, like, I'm not sure what they call them, but you can fill in the little, I don't know what they're called either, but there's like circle holes, and they have these little like stoppers you can put in there, which...
the ports?
Yeah, the ports. So like
Those are
you can
bass reflex ports. They provide like little foam
yep.
things or something.
Yeah, so you can. It's a different sound. I haven't even tried them yet. That's like maybe one weekend I'll see what goes on with those. But
I would almost be scared that it's like one more thing you can mess with, and it's like, is my mix right? Oh, maybe it's because I don't have these in.
I know,
and then
I
you're
know,
like,
and that's
it's like almost like just leave them out. Like, don't even give me that option.
But I'll have to give him a shot because the guy from Head that I was speaking with about him was saying he really likes that sound. So they're awesome. I mean, I just sit here and listen to music like right here in the sweet spot, just like like wow, like I just never heard all of this stuff and like some of my favorite songs that I thought I knew inside and out. I'm like, what is that?
Well, now now you make me want to go get some.
Hearing the reverb like tails really well on certain instruments, and it's just
Oh man, I live for that stuff.
yeah, it's pretty awesome. It was a good investment, I'll say, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I've been drooling over ATC monitors. Have you ever heard a pair of ATCs?
No.
A company out of England, and really, you'll see them in most major studios now. They're so kind of renowned. And I went to several different studios that had those, and I was like, you know what? These are the best. Nothing else sounds this good. I'm sorry. Like, there's a lot of, fans of like different brands of stuff, but the ATCs were the one thing that was like, yep, like what you're hearing out of these is that is what it sounds like. But they're really expensive, which may not come as a shock. So I thought these heads look really cool, and Klaus Heinz is legit. So, anyways, I'm glad to hear that you like them so much. So maybe I'll jump back on board that train.
I'm no expert on any of this
back into like acquiring too much gear. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, that's true. I know, but monitors are a good investment, as you know. I mean,
yes.
To hear what's actually going on a little better.
Now, do you use reference monitors?
Like just another set of monitors to
like a lot of people use like NS10s or Aura tones or something.
No, I have my KRKs that I can go through. I got a couple different things I can play through just to compare my mix with, but nothing.
I got these.
It's definitely not like a setup.
These
like
guys. Sorry. Here it is.
Okay.
These are the ref tones. These are amazing. Just little cubes. And their power rating is like 30 watts to 300 watts. I was like, that's anything, I guess. So I'm just powering them with a little home stereo, and they have been awesome. These things, amazing. And I kind of messed up my little speaker stand, but I can fix that later. But they're a lot like the cube. You've seen the little cube style monitors. It'll be like sitting on the meter bridge of the console in tons of studios. Some people have MS10s, some people have NS10, and some people have these, some people have both. But these have such a high frequency response. I mean, I was able to hear like 16 or 17K, and then past that, I don't think I can even hear that high. So, maybe it's even higher. There's no bass, but it's like, man, you can really get some work done on these things. And I'm working in an untreated room, so to try to mix bass in what is essentially a cube, it's not going to work. But these things at a lower level, it's like, man, and then you check bass with your cans, and it's like, it's kind of cool. It's doing good.
Yeah, not bad. And the size is definitely pretty nice.
Yeah. You can take them with you. They even sell a little, like, you can get a Pelican case, and there's 2 of them in there, and they include one of those little T amps. Those little, have you seen those? Those slim, sleek little nice amplifiers.
Oh, cool.
But anyways, great product.
Yeah.
Highly suggest.
There's no end to it, right?
No, there's
And
never.
I think this started with me asking you like how you managed to keep the mobile rig nice and small.
Oh,
You know,
right. And then I talked about how
and
much
now
gear I
we're
bought.
it's the curse. It's part of I think every hobby is like that though, you know, whether you're playing video games and you got the whole like vintage set of the old school consoles or you're doing,
Yeah,
you know, I
or
mean like
classic cars or something.
yeah, I mean there's just no end to how deep you can go and how insane you can get and how much you can convince yourself that this extra $1,000 is a real big difference.
Yeah, and you find yourself listening to YouTube videos where people have compared two extremely similar things that are way different in price, and you're like, "No, there's a difference. Okay, I'm buying the expensive one."
Yeah, there's something to be said about that. Some sort of psychological thing at work, I think.
Could be. Well, companies picked up on it, and so anybody that's like testing audio gear, companies will just contact them and be like, "Hey, we're going to send you our new product. Just tell us what you think." You know, and fingers crossed they like it.
Mm.
So, but I think a lot of people do good reviews because it means they get a free piece of gear out of it.
Yeah, that's true. That goes on, I'm sure. But it's a good way, I guess, you know, to get the word out, you know, word of mouth. It's essentially word of mouth, right? You know, if your favorite YouTuber is showing you something.
Well, that's where the eyes are. So
Yeah.
anybody that's in advertising is like, where are people looking and listening? So they just figure out how to get their product right out in front. A little bit annoying, but I get it.
Yeah. Well, I think you start to learn who to trust. And,
Yeah.
you know, there's some people like every once in a while, they're like, this is garbage. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, good. So you're not just saying this is always good. Yeah, because I don't really like to do reviews and things like that with my stuff because I don't know what I would do if I didn't like it. you know,
delete. Just
yeah, if I got something, some company sent me something, and I was asked to do it, if I didn't like it, I just
send it back. I'm sorry, but this product was terrible.
Yeah, it's even that would like, let alone going public with it. But
Yeah, no, you just don't even take the step to record any of that. You just it's like,
Yeah.
hey, sorry, man, but this one's not making the cut.
I just don't do it.
I don't want it in my
That's my
home.
way around it, you know. I've taken that burden off my plate, which is something you got to do. You got to sort of decide on what to do and what not to do. Otherwise,
Yeah,
you can just
especially
get
now
overwhelmed and never do anything.
the demand to be multifaceted.
Yeah.
Like for me to be releasing music, but to also be like a mix engineer and also producing and also and it's like there's so many things, and everybody will tell you like, oh, well, you got to be multifaceted or else you're useless. And it's like, but if you don't focus on one thing, you can't get really good at the one thing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a catch-22 there. And then you get to the point where it's like, well, which one's going to make me money because I have to pay rent? So you end up kind of doing that, and you got to make little sacrifices here and there. But yeah, if you're going in lots of different directions, good.
Yeah, well, I think just by design, right? Even if you've got your home studio situation, you're already doing the job of a number of people. In the old days, you're the producer, you're the engineer, you're the talent, you're the songwriter, you're the marketer, you're the web designer, and it's just like, oh my god,
you run your own errands.
Yeah, right. You're your own chef. Yeah.
If you want a coffee, you got to get it yourself.
Yeah. You're the intern. Yeah, it's wild. While we're talking about mics, I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned that you were using the Groove Tubes Model 1. Now, is this the
Groove
one with
Tubes
that
Model 1.
external power supply and everything?
Oh yeah, it's a tube
Uh,
mic.
yeah, it's cool. Tell me about that. I've never used anything like this.
So it's kind of
How does that work? It's because it's got,
it's
just
not
so people
really a
know, it's like
talked about.
a separate unit that you're plugging everything into, with the tubes in it.
Yeah, so there's the mic, and then there's like a power supply that sits on the floor, really just for the tube and a lot of the electronics inside the mic to be able to work. Because phantom power is just not going to cut it. So you got to, kind of give it some extra juice. So that's the deal with the extra power supply. And the Groove Tubes Model 1 is one of these like unsung heroes of tube mics, and it was one of their earlier products. So there was one at Sequoia Studios, and I was trying out different mics. They have a Manly Reference, which is like this great mic that everybody's also a tube mic. And they had a Shure KSM 44, another just solid, clean microphone. And then I thought, my music's kind of like old school sounding. I probably need a tube mic here. So I was trying it out for a while, and I thought, I'm going with this, mostly because it's cool and it's shiny. How could you not like something that's shiny? So yeah, I actually replaced the tube in that microphone years ago when we dug it out of storage. It's like, hey, here's this thing. Let's put this up and get it going and use it on sessions. And I'm really glad we did, because later it was my session.
And you said you used that on the vocals?
Use that on vocals.
And they sound nice. They sound clear, crisp, warm, not harsh. Do you think that has to do with the microphone much, or is that just your silky smooth voice? And
my voice isn't that good. I try to sing nice. Originally, I was gonna hire singers to be on this album, and I still might on the next one. But it was just like turned into this nightmare of trying to get people's schedules, and some people like, yeah, I'll do it, and then no, because you don't have any clout when you're starting out. If like somebody famous asked you to sing, it's like, buddy, you're gonna be there. But if it's like some guy, oh, okay. So I was like, I guess I'm gonna have to sing these myself. As far as the recording environment goes, I was in a professional sound booth, and it was ultra quiet. And that's like rule one. And, having the mic set up the right way, and then playing with mic position, kind of how far it is and close it is. I mean, that makes a bigger difference than what kind of mic you're using. Because a lot of mics sound really good. So if you start playing with how close are you to this mic, it's like suddenly there's way more bass, and the frequency response chart that you were obsessing over means nothing, because the second you move back from it, it's like, oh, it sounds totally different now. So, and it's one of those things you just play with in the studio until you get it right, and you're like, okay, cool, I like this. Go with what you like at the time, and you'll usually be satisfied with your decision later.
Yeah, you're right. And mic placement on everything. We talked about tambourine. We could talk about guitar amps, and guitar amps are really sensitive.
Ooh, yeah. Touchy subject. I'm actually not a super pro on guitar amp tone, but me and my friend who actually works at Shure, we agreed that we're going to start putting the mic dead on the center of the cone, because if you want, you can always roll it off with your EQ. And of course, this could change tomorrow, because that's how these things work. But the idea is, okay, if it's dead on the center of the cone, and my guitars on Sterling Styles LP are recorded like this, with a C451B dead on the center of the cone, super bright tone, and if I wanted less of the bright, I'll just bring it off with an EQ. But if you were to want it more bright, it would be harder to pull that out if it's not there.
Yeah.
Like if you record towards the outside of the cone, you would be like, oh, it's a little dark. I'll just use this EQ and try to boost it, and you're going to drive yourself crazy.
Yeah, I think that's a good rule of thumb, actually. It's a lot easier to take it away than it is to bring it back or to add it in, whether it's bass or any of that stuff. It seems like once it's not there, it's not there for the most part.
Yeah. But then you run into, if you don't have a mic with a good transient response, then you're trying to take away weird stuff that you're not even what is this? And EQs and compressors and things and the special, I don't know. And you watch videos on guys' techniques and stuff. And a lot of people don't talk about transient response of a microphone. They look at the frequency response and they go, does that sound warm and smooth or cold and tinny? And those are the words they always use. And another important thing is a lot of cheaper mics will do this thing called overshoot. So a transient will be overrepresented by the microphone. So you can have like a snare drum hit, or if a jazz singer goes boo boo ba, and it's gonna be like boom. And if you're going to a compressor, your compressor's going oh, and it's like the sound is weird, and you're like, man, I never can get this thing right, and it's because it's all overshoot.
Yeah,
so
that's
sense. Another reason to spend more money on more gear.
Yeah. Or maybe pull out that 57.
Or use the 57. We're back to the thing that you can count on, which is our old friend, the 57.
Nice. That's funny. Like like you said, it's a living legend for a reason.
Yeah, I think the original Shure, it was like a Shure Unidyne something, and they had a chrome finish, which looks great, but they were using this thing on TV, so they started to give it the darker finish, the black finish, so that it would kind of blend in and it wouldn't distract from people's faces. And that was when they started. I want to say in the 80s is when this started becoming the presidential microphone, but I don't know for sure. I don't know the dates. I'd have to do internet digging. But yeah, classic for a reason. Takes a beating. Everyone loves it. Can't go wrong.
So do you have any bits of wisdom you might bring back, like now that you might not be recording mobile? I think you said in the next one you might do some of the remote stuff, but I'm guessing you might find yourself in more traditional studio settings as well. Do you have any like wisdom that you've taken from the whole process of being on the go, on the road?
Well, just have stuff that you can rely on, and simplifying your rig is important. If you're using gear that has all these little extra add-on little bits that you need for it to work, that's one more thing that can fail. So simplification is good. If you can use, like I always try to use an interface that's powered by the laptop, which is a whole other subject of conversation. But for me, it's like, okay, this simplifies it, and suddenly I'm not running an extension cord and trying to, it's everything gets cumbersome. So when it comes to mobile recording, it's like you want an interface that's powered by the laptop, and something that sounds good and can take a beating and stuff. And so that's where the sound devices all comes in.
And,
well,
I guess if you're
mic placement,
yeah. Did you find, sometimes things I recommend to people and I try myself every now and then, I got my spot. I love it. I got things set up the way I like it.
Your place looks awesome, man.
Oh, thanks. It's a nice...
I'm really jealous of the lava lamp.
The lava lamp has been going since I was a teenager, about 10 minutes ago. I've had that lava lamp for probably 25 years or so.
Man.
Close to that, I bet. Works great. It gives off a vibe. I don't know. Just sometimes when I'm listening to music, you can just stare at it.
Oh, it sets the tone for sure. I mean, when we started this video call and I saw that thing, I was like, this guy chills.
A gift from my brother, actually, which is fun. So a little sentimental there, too. But yeah, it's fun to be in your comfortable spot. But a lot of times when you go into a different setting, like magical stuff happens. Where like I love to go outside if I can to record, or just even in a different room in the house, someplace that's different. At one point, I've had band practice in my kitchen. We took the kitchen table out, put a drum set in its place, and
that
it was
sounds
awesome.
Fun.
Like it was just, like we could just play in the house instead of like we used to play in the basement, which was great to have too, but it was unfinished and it wasn't as cozy. It was just
Yep.
and I think it just changed the music. It made us like more fun. We made happier songs and
Yeah,
so
because you're just kind of like, my advice there would be to have like if you're using mics to record in a totally new situation, you want to have a mic technique ready to go that will work, or you can say, this might be a sketchy room I'm recording in, but at least I know. Like for me, when I record drums and I don't know what the room's gonna really do, I always use an XY setup on the overheads because it's like I can kind of rely on that to pretty much sound good all the time. But if you start spacing them out and using a spaced pair, you run into phase issues, not just with each other, but like here comes a reflection from this wall, here comes a reflection from that piece of furniture over there, and it's like it starts getting weird. So always have, mic techniques and recording techniques and stuff that will be good. Or like if you're recording vocals, like if I was recording vocals in this room, I would definitely use the 57 instead of a condenser because the acoustics are terrible in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's
reliability on stuff is the one thing I can say.
That's something I've run into a lot with condensers. It hears everything, and I'm not in a perfectly treated place. I got a little bit of soundproofing, which helped a lot, actually. Some cheap soundproofing really went a long way, I got to say. But I do have like of course, the heating element, the burner and everything is right over there, in its own little room, but you still hear it,
Yeah.
So, I mean, if the neighbor down the road is cutting the grass, the condenser is going to let me know.
Yep, exactly.
So,
I live next to a busy road too, so it's like, forget about it.
Yeah. That's definitely something I think about a lot when I pull those mics out. Did you find any particular environment like the most inspiring for you? Any place that kind of stood out?
Each one was so cool. Some were like funny. Like the barbershop was funny. It's like, look at us in this barbershop. But oddly, at my buddy's house with those great big ceilings, because when you walk into a room and you're like, I bet it sounds good, and you start like clapping to test the acoustics and stuff. I was doing that and I thought, man, this is actually great. And he already had a drum set in the room. So I was kind of messing around with it. And just the sound of that room, I was like, this is it. This is where we're going to do the drums. And I got all excited and, made my little pre-production plan. And so that was a space that I thought was cool, which I didn't expect. You would think it would be some like the thing by the lake with the tambourine. It's like, here we are in this nice place. This is going to be awesome. And but I saw a Tame Impala interview where he kind of talked about this. When you're making music in a beautiful place, you're kind of just like, well, that's fine because it's beautiful here. And then he said, but if you're making music in like a really dingy, like weird, like I almost don't want to be here, your mind is going to the cool place. And so you make music in that way. And I thought, oh man, I had never thought of it that way. And he really hit a nerve with me. So it's going to be the unlikely places like the basement you were talking about, where it's like, oh, actually, it was really cool there. We actually made some of the best stuff down there in the basement.
Yeah. I've had that experience before where you're in this cramped, sweaty place or something, and there's something about it. Maybe it's you're trying to escape it through the music.
Yeah, really. It's
I know,
like you're creating escapism and people vibe with it.
Well, I know when it's like a beautiful day out, sometimes I'm like, I got to get out of here and just not be in this spot and be outside, and then I'm not making music.
That is a good time to listen to other people's great music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point.
So, and that's what it's for. That's what you do it all for. You're hoping that somebody else will enjoy it.
Yeah.
And like when I make music, I try to imagine my listener and think, okay, are they, it's a beautiful day. They're driving with the windows down and they're going to crank this up. And then I'm like, oh, that snare drum's a little loud. Maybe I. But I try to. It's escapism in some form or another.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, enjoying other people's cool works of art on a beautiful day is like the height of like what all this is. And then, when it's rainy and you're in the basement and it's smelly and hot and it's like, I got to get out of here. I need to do something. And that you end up like making some cool piece of art.
That's actually how I was enjoying your album. At first, it was outside doing stuff, and then yesterday was also a really nice day. I had it on before we were scheduled to talk, but Destiny decided not to let us speak yesterday. For the people listening, you had a water leak in your place, and then about a half hour into what would have been our conversation, the electric went out in my place. So there was just no way it was going to happen.
Nope. Though it was meant to be today for one reason or another. So so be it.
Yeah. Funny how it works.
Well, cool. I'm glad you enjoyed my album, man.
Yes.
A lot of work went into that, and a lot of, self-doubt. You probably run into this when you make stuff. You're like, oh, no, it's not good. I'm a fraud. No one's going to like this. It's like, that's just part of it, and it sucks, but hey.
It is. And I haven't spoken to a person yet that has told me that they don't go through that themselves. I mean, even like people you just wouldn't believe, like insane musicians, they still have it. It's still there. It's like the price of admission. You get to do this and have fun and make music and get that like adrenaline rush when things are working and that thrill of listening to it at some point and saying, oh, I did a good job. But you're going to also have to live with that, like sometimes crippling self-doubt and doubt.
It can be bad.
Yeah.
And you'll have a project sitting on the shelf for like years. And finally you'll go, you know what? I'm just going to actually do this.
Yeah. Oh, I can't tell you how many times I've had that. Every time.
I think everybody listening probably has a ton of sessions on their computer with half-finished songs that,
Yeah, that's probably the main thing taking up space on my computer. They could show you, sometimes you can see like the bar that tells you like you have documents, music, movie files,
audio files,
unfinished tracks. Yeah. That'd be a fun app for someone to design. These are your unfinished. This is your meter of space.
And I've had some trouble too with showing people unfinished products because they don't hear it the way it's going to have this and this with it and the mix will be better and it's going to be the thing. And somebody's just going to listen to it and go, cool, man. Or just like act like they're bobbing along or whatever. And you're like, oh, they hate it. I'm deleting this whole thing. No way.
Yeah.
But it's actually fine. You just need to finish it.
Yeah. They don't have the imagination part with it. I think you can also use that as a way to sort of like get the satisfaction or validation without actually finishing the music too. Like, hey man, listen, isn't this going to be cool? Yes, that's going to be cool. Okay.
Yeah. And you know who to show it to. You know who's going to give you the positive response, so you just only show it to them. But you don't really know until you like put it out there and see what people are saying. Or the worst is looking at your Spotify numbers. It's like a stock. It goes up and down, and more people listen today and less this. And it's like, well, which songs are doing well? And the song I made called "Take Your Time," and honestly, to me, it was just another one of the tracks, but it was like boom, like by a landslide. Everybody loves that song. I guess it's like the upbeat, cool one. So I was like, okay, cool. So I watched that one to see like, how good is it going to get? And I'm always disappointed because every day it's up or down.
Yeah.
You do some marketing on Instagram or something, you get a couple more numbers. Oh, that worked.
Yeah, that's the stuff that's hard to control, I found with the self-doubt, though, somewhere I heard someone say this, that they outsource their criticism. Like people outsource like telemarketing or, customer service, so they don't have to do it and don't have to worry about it. They say, I outsource the criticism. I let other people worry about if it's good or bad. I was like, oh, that's cool. So when it comes up, I'm like, that's not my job. it's not my job to worry about if it's good or bad. I can't always remember to think of that, but sometimes it helps where I say, oh, you know what? This song sucks. I suck. And well, you know what? That's not my job. I'm not responsible for that
Yeah.
decision. It
If you
helps
like
a
what I
little.
made, good. If you don't, maybe next time.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying not to worry about that is good if you can, but it's easy to say it and hard to do it.
Yeah. It's when you're there and you're alone and you're in the middle of the thing and you keep going back over to Spotify to listen to some amazing song that you love and it's like it's still not as good as this. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
Ah.
Well, if it was easy though, there'd be no point. There'd be
That's true.
no point to doing it. No glory.
Well, it's getting easier. Like you were saying, you no longer need all this like studio staff and personnel.
Yeah.
How many thousands of songs are released on Spotify a day? It's some crazy number.
Yeah. Like per minute, even, Like,
Yeah, it's really crazy how much music is released each and every day, and it's because everybody has access to the tools now.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not you're writing good songs, that's another story. But
And it's not even, it used to be a lot harder to actually get it on iTunes and Spotify.
Yeah,
It was like more of
yeah.
a process. Now it's not even. I'm gonna actually search this just for
okay,
on Spotify. There we go. It came up. I just clicked it away. On Spotify every day. Ready? You have a guess?
no, I don't even know.
No idea? Give me a number. What do you think?
10,000 songs a day.
60,000. 60,000 songs a day. Every day. 22 million a
60,000
year.
songs a day. Oh my, 22 million songs a year.
1.2 million are major labels. And then I guess the rest are do-it-yourselfers.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
So
And there's 12 notes.
What's that per second? You can get to per second. If we do the math here, we get like every second, hundreds of songs. Right now, as
think
we're
it's
having this
amazing.
conversation.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah.
Boom, right there. 5 albums just fell into the
Should
world.
give you an idea, right? I mean, how many of those songs do you hear? So
Yeah, and
don't
you
feel
think
so bad,
people are-
folks.
People are hiding away and working on this stuff, and it's the biggest thing in their life, and they're like, man, what are people going to think? And then when they release it, 60,000 other releases are done at the same time.
Yeah. And I
Man.
find a potato chip that looks like a dog and it gets 20 times more attention than anyone's song.
Than any art you'll ever make. Yeah.
Yeah. You just can't worry about that, folks. Just laugh at it.
Yeah. You do it because you love it and you think it's cool and you make what you think is cool. And then, the other people that are out there that will like what you do, it's like, that's your crew.
Yeah. Yeah, don't ever think that's nothing. If somebody likes your song, if somebody tells you that they enjoyed it, they got something out of it, it moved them in some way.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, the fact that they even listened to it is incredible.
Exactly.
I mean, remember when you couldn't even, it was, you give away music. It was like, oh, wow, it's free. Oh, cool. But then you couldn't even get anyone to listen to it now.
yeah.
You can't even give it
you
away.
hand somebody a CD and they're like, oh, okay, cool. And they'll like set it on their table when they get home and then it gets buried under the mail and then whatever. And then some time goes by. I wonder if they heard it, and then, hey, did you listen to that thing? Oh, yeah. Tonight. I'll do it tonight. Yeah, so it turns into that. But if you could, now you could tell people, like I can say, hey, look up Sterling Styles on your iTunes or your Spotify or Pandora or whatever it is they're using. And they're like, oh, cool. And they save it right there. And they're like, I'm going to listen to this in my car on my way home. And, after that, I'll get a text or a call. Man, that was awesome. How'd you do that? It's like, well, it wasn't easy, but, and I don't even think it's good, but you're tired of your own songs. By the time you finish a project, you're like, get this out of here.
Mm-hmm. It's good to
My
get some
dad will put it
space,
on in
yeah.
the car, and I'm like, please, anything but this, because he's proud. So
No, that's good, man. There's a lot of people, parents wouldn't want to hear that, and would
yeah,
tell you you need a real job or something like that. you know,
well, it
you're
helps that my
fooling
music
around
is
with your little notes.
yeah, my music is baby boomer friendly, so that helps a
Yeah,
lot.
good.
So people in all kinds of different genres, making stuff that parents will never understand.
Mm, that's true.
But keep going on that. If you like what you do, do it.
Yeah, just do it. Keep working, keep having fun, and do it for its own sake. Do it for just the enjoyment of doing it.
Yep.
Everything else is a bonus and not guaranteed.
Correct.
Well, cool, man. It was a lot of fun to talk to you.
Thanks so much for having me on the show. And, it was cool and kind of getting to know you here and hearing about your music and stuff. I'm going to go do a lot of listening and probably buy a pair of head monitors. And, but yeah, it was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it a lot. It's nice to hear like the story behind everything. I think that makes the album more fun, honestly. Even after you sent me the PDF with just like who's on it and where it was recorded, when I listened to it again after that, I was like, okay, this is, it takes you somewhere.
It's
And
kind of crazy.
I think that is like one of the things that will keep human beings in the business of making music instead of like machines and algorithms.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
Well,
But yes,
maybe
I agree.
we'll do that another time. But I think, like that's just what makes the humans making music so cool. Is there's the story, there's the world of it that you can kind of get into. And it was fun hearing the world of your, creation of your album.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks. I had a lot of fun making it.
Thanks. And where do you want to send people to find your stuff? Do you have a main spot you like to send them, or?
Probably, I mean, it's easy to say Instagram. There is an Instagram. So if you just search Sterling Styles Music, the Instagram is there. But, the point is the music. So I would say get on Spotify or Apple Music and just enjoy it, and give it a good listen before you get on Instagram and comment on my tambourine video.
Yeah, well, the fun thing about the Instagram too is some of those pictures just kind of take you into what you're doing. The tambourine outside.
That's true.
You see the barbershop bass playing. So it adds another level to it. I think that's fun. And just that's always like kind of the fun part of like an album, I think.
Mm-hmm.
When you find one you love and you can open it up. I got one right here. My newest one. Van Weezer.
What you got? What's Van Weezer?
It's Weezer. It's their sort of like 80s hair tribute album.
Oh, wait
it's
a
great.
second.
I love it. It's so good.
Okay, that's coming on right after this phone call.
But I got the album. I enjoyed I was streaming it and enjoyed it, and I wanted to get it on vinyl, and just like sitting there with it, opening it up, reading through like the liner notes and like so it's just cool, like in there, like dedicated to Eddie Van Halen and Rick Ocasek of the Cars. I'm on a huge Cars kick, as everyone listening might know by now. But it's just again, it takes you into the world of the record, and I think that album in particular, being this like Van Weezer, like the way they present it is telling you like this is the world you're going in, and if you are willing to go along for the ride, it's a lot of fun. You feel like you're almost like hanging out with them, or you're in on the joke or something.
Oh man,
so
I gotta
love
check
that
this
kind
out.
of
I had
stuff.
no idea that was out. That is so cool. Did they have any pictures in there from the sessions?
No, not really. There's like they're kind of hanging out playing. It was more like the liner notes, just reading about like where some of the inspiration came from. I mean, there's like a song on there that's Crazy Train, like literally.
Oh,
it's the riff, blatantly, and it's not a ripoff. It's like the tribute, and there's a few
it's
moments.
like, hey, we're playing this.
we're have like a different chorus vocal melody. It's interesting. It's again, you just, if you get along for the ride, you're like, cool. But probably if you don't know the story, you're like, well, what the hell is this? This is a total ripoff. Crazy. But I think when you're like saying, when you're with them, understanding the approach, and that's just like records in general. Like they kind of invite you into a world, and you sort of have to like enter it with the band or with the group or with the artist.
Yeah.
So
It's strangely easier to do that with vinyl. There is something that you're like, I am listening to this and I'm really going to get my head in that space.
well, you got the
and
big open artwork. You've got the fact that you
Yeah.
have to put it down and you have to flip it eventually. Like you can't just throw it on and like let it go forever like you can with
Yeah,
like
you got to
streaming.
sit there and listen to this thing.
Yeah, it's an event. And I love the way they sound, of course, but I think probably the thing I enjoy the most is the event of it. The like ritual of like, we're putting it on, we're gonna open it, we're gonna look at it and get into the world of the album.
Yeah. No, that is absolutely. I'm a vinyl guy too, so but that's a whole other thing. But it is, and like you were saying, the sound quality. I think now digital audio is really getting to the point where it's very, very good, and you can count on it like you used to be able to count on vinyl. It's like, hey, this vinyl is going to sound amazing. It's got the warm tones. It's got all the stuff I like, good, kind of that weird thick bass to it. And now with digital audio and the plugins and the gear and all this stuff and the way it's made and played back and converters, it's like, this is really getting nice. So the conversation, like digital versus analog, is less separated than it used to be.
Yeah. Well, I know I have Apple Music is the streaming service I happen to use. And they just started doing like the high res, lossless audio files.
Yeah.
Which is, oh man, it's great, especially like on these speakers, listening to stuff. And I can turn my interface to 192 and get whatever the highest they can
cool.
do.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's like listening to music, it's like a thing again. Like
yeah,
like
that's
just sit
amazing.
here like, wow. I had Billy Idol on just the other day listening to
I like Billy Idol. He has
I
a
do
song
too, man.
called "Not Do Anything," Sweet 16 or something. And it has these really cool big keyboards that are just like, whoa, man. And they're in there with some kind of high-strung electric guitar doing a little riff. And the space of it is like, whoa, man. So
that's why I put it on,
what
actually,
that
was
sound like.
to listen to like kind of the new wave 80s-y like synths and big drums. I just kind of wanted to just jump into that world, and the kind of like slightly evil sound of him,
Yeah.
Mischievous. But it was just great. I mean, I don't know if it's playing back at 192, but it's definitely like a really nice quality coming out.
Well, that's good.
That's why I said
I'm
it
wondering if, from our end, as far as uploading, because I tried to upload to a website called HD Tracks. And that's like one of these obscure hi-fi guys know about it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I emailed them. I was like, how do you get, if you record a high resolution album, my next album is done in all high resolution in preparation for, because I know everybody's going to move towards this. So I want it to be ready to go. And it's all going to be high res. So, but I was like, well, all the CD Baby and the people uploading, they all say, no, just send us 44:1 16-bit, which is the standard. Still sounds great, but like for those that want to do the high res thing, like what are our options? How do we upload into that? So that's cool that Apple Music's doing that, but I'm curious as to how to get on the train and get my music out there.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that myself too, because I've always just done 44:1, and then dithered it down to 16-bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. I think it's exciting because I mean, once Apple or some big company like that jumps on this, we'll finally see it happen a little bit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just like when they changed the ports on the computer and now all of a sudden everything's USB 3 or whatever. And
I'm very happy about that.
it's just nice. Because for a long time we've really went down in quality from CDs with MP3s and streaming.
Yeah.
It was like
In the
the
name of
one
saving
thing in
space.
technology that just went the opposite way, but the convenience is obviously undeniable.
Well, did you know the MP3 was invented in the 80s?
Oh yeah, no, I didn't know that.
But it didn't start getting used the way that it was, until the 2000s or, whenever that kind of period was where it was like MP3 was a synonym for song.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a book about it called How Music Got Free. And it is one of the best written books I've read in a long time. And it follows 3 stories. It follows the Fraunhofer Institute, who designed and built the MP3. And then it follows Doug Morris, who is like, music business bigwig, executive guy. And then it follows a guy that was working at a CD pressing plant that was stealing CDs and uploading them to the internet. And these were kind of the first files that we had available to start downloading for free. So, and all their stories never really connect, but they're all part of this whole, like, how music got free. Right. And it's a fascinating book. But hearing about the MP3 being invented in the 80s, I was like, wow, man. Because I guess the creators were thinking like, okay, they saw a jukebox and they said, well, why does every single jukebox need to have its own media in it, like CDs or 45s? It could all just be coming from one source, and maybe the audio could go over like telephone lines. And so this was like, well, there's no way we could shove all this audio down a phone line. And remember DSL? So they're like, worked really hard to come up with different algorithms, and it took them years and years and years. And they went to war with Philips, because Philips was making the CD, and they were also making all the file types for different videos, like the MPEG stuff, and MPEG layer 3 is what MP3 is. So, anyways, that's a really good book. And it's also fascinating to read about Doug Morris, who's like just like this juggernaut guy in the music business. And he's the one who created Vivo, because he found out that people were uploading music to YouTube and people were listening to it that way. And YouTube was putting an ad in front of it. And he's like, wait a second, who's getting the money from that ad? And so he like devised this whole plan and created Vivo. So when you see Vivo and a little thing, that's from Doug Morris. Anyways, the whole book is awesome.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's How Music Got Free.
Yep.
All right, I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, that's a good
maybe
one.
Check that out myself. I could use a good read for the summer. Yeah. Nice. Well, maybe we'll try our goodbye again this time. That happens more often than I think I realize. There's a lot of goodbyes than new tangents.
Yeah,
which I guess is a good thing, right?
I think it's fine. You
didn't rush out
of the South. That's called the Southern goodbye, where you say goodbye inside, or like, well, we should get going, and then you're out at the door, like, well, see you later, and then the car is running, and somebody's leaning on a window, and you're still talking about stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, well, we really got to go now. And, okay, and then you finally go.
That's why we have the Irish goodbye as well, which is
just, I think okay, it's
you just
the same
bounce
thing
without saying goodbye, so you don't get caught up in that. Where'd he go? I don't know.
You just Houdini.
I don't know. Usually those goodbyes at the end of the parties, or no one remembers them anyway.
Right.
Well, cool, man. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk. We'll send people to Sterling Styles Music on Instagram. We'll have them look at Sterling Styles on Spotify or Apple or wherever you go. It's on YouTube as well. And some cool stuff. And I wish you the best on the next project. And maybe we'll have to touch base and find out how it went doing all the remote recording this time.
Yeah. It's a new approach, and I'm kind of halfway through writing, and I've already hired a few of the musicians and have some of the parts in. So it's a slow moving process, just because life's crazy. But yeah, that one is going to be better. It's going to sound better. The music's going to be cooler. The whole thing. So, but yeah, I'll keep you posted.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks a lot. And thank
All
you
right.
to everyone listening. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. See you, Brian.